You're listening to DraftKings Network.
You know that sound. It's the sound of money hitting your Venmo account, a friend paying you back, or maybe it's getting cash back from your favorite business when you pay with the Venmo debit card, or it's realizing you can pay with Venmo at checkout at thousands of brands. Now, there are so many more ways to answer the question, what's your Venmo? Download Venmo today. The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. pursuant to license by MasterCard International Incorporated. Dosh Cashback terms apply.
Welcome to Nada Yada Island.
Next on Metro's Nada Yada Island podcast.
I almost fainted when the 4 new bombshells arrived. 4 free Samsung Galaxy A16 5G phones at Metro.
No way.
And finding out the 4th line is free. Oh, things got heated.
That's wild. Join Metro and get 4 free Samsung 5G phones. Only at Metro.
Plus tax. Bring 4 numbers and an ID and sign up for any Metro Flex plan. Not available currently at T-Mobile or have been with Metro in the past 180 days.
Shadow Show.
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 Shadowing it.
Shadowing it.
Are you ready to go, Greg?
I'm ready. He's always ready. Born ready.
Headphones on, mic in front of my snout. I'm ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Are you aware that Mike, get away from his snout. Are you aware that we're on?
I was born aware.
Yep.
I came out of the womb. I'm like, what's next? Who needs me? Let's go. I was snapping my fingers at 2 minutes old.
I believe that, actually.
I was. I don't waste any time.
A newborn saying, "Who needs me?"
When I'm coming into the studio,
his fingers.
I am ready to fly, man. I'm ready to go.
A baby's voice singing "King of the Road."
Hey, baby, and I meant it literally. That kind of thing.
He's ready.
I am ready. Sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I am, but I get a bad rap. This time I was ready to go. My phone is off. My computer sound is off. Everything's good to go. I'm so ready. My name's Freddie.
There it is.
The thing that he said there, I just want to examine it because he is legitimately the only person in the world keeping alive Gary Stevens, the former offensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins, walking into a press room 40 years ago before a game in which the Dolphins were going to play the Bills with Bernie Parmalee as their running back. And he walks into the press room, Gary Stevens, lifelong offensive coordinator, never graduated to a head coaching job, even though there were like protests and people in Miami and every corner of the University of Miami were rooting for him to get a head coaching job he never got. He would come into the press room, usually smoking a cigarette, because back then you could do that.
My man.
And he would just say, "Who needs me? Dummy."
Right, as if someone automatically did need him. Who needs me, dummy? You're going to go to Buffalo with Bernie Parmalee?
That story's like Piano Man. Like, I've heard it a few times, but it just slaps
good.
every time.
It's always
Never
good.
stop.
The best. Yeah.
I'm singing along with it. I'm like,
learned
who
something new.
needs me?
The cigarette is a detail that I never caught before.
Oh,
Really?
The cigarette,
Yeah, the cigarette.
Oh, yeah.
Someone ripping a heater and saying, "Who needs me?" is that's peak.
It was very theatrical. It almost had a Rat Pack vibe to it.
The thing that you guys have to enjoy about that is lost in in the lack of context of a story that nobody remembers from 40 years ago is just how sad that press room was. Like, it's not what the it's not what the Dolphins are today. Like, this is not St. Thomas Aquinas, right? But this is soon thereafter, right? This is a bad press room. This is you are taking inventory of your life and don't think it has much worth when Gary Stevens is blowing cigarette breath in your face.
Yeah, it's amazing how everything has changed. Like, back then, it essentially, for a few years, it would be me, Charles Bricker, and maybe Hal Habib. And we were the only reporters there. There was no ESPN yet. There was no national coverage element to the Dolphins or most NFL teams. And so it was very confined. So Gary Stevens would be coming in to a very small room, just a few people. Who needs me? And we always felt like...
Dummy.
Yeah, usually the dummy. Usually, not always.
Not always.
Not always.
Okay.
But we all
Who was he
felt-
talking to with the dumbing? Who was that directed
I don't know. I'm not sure. I like to think it wasn't me, but you're never quite sure.
Had to be Edwin, right? I mean,
no.
It would never be Edwin.
No,
Stugotz
God,
picking
no.
the
I thought that's
absolute
playfully,
worst
though.
of the
that
people.
was the joke.
No, I thought it's a playful. Hey, dummy.
Yeah, no, it was playful. It was playful.
You can call Edwin Poe playfully dummy.
Right.
Dummy.
Edwin, God bless him, rarely showed up at camp. He was a guy who went to games, and
That's where you learned it.
Right.
Yes, exactly. That's right. That's right. But Stevens, when somebody says to you, "Oh, Nades may," and you think he means it literally, you have to fabricate a question at that point. You can't leave him hanging. So even if no one needed him, you have to say, Bernie Parmalee's playing great lately. Oh, you're going to go to Buffalo. Because at that time, Buffalo had great players. I mean,
They had
were
Thurman
good
Thomas and Jim Kelly and Andre Reid and Bruce Smith.
Yeah, I mean, they went to 4 Super Bowls in a row, lost them all, but went to 4 Super Bowls
So
in
the
a row.
offensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins kept coming into the press room and saying, "How the hell am I supposed to win in Buffalo with Bernie Parmalee, a former UPS driver?"
Right, exactly. Yeah. And, that's honesty you don't get out of the modern offensive coordinator.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
So I have a little stuff for you here, Stugotz, surrounding, I think, the part of the Heat trade deadline that most people were interested in, which is the Kevin Durant part of it. And Kevin Durant was... as it relates to the Miami Heat, Kevin Durant was blindsided, according to Shams, that he was going to be traded. All of that is a mess, and I will tell you, after the Heat dealt with the Suns, Ishbia is a nightmare. Like, just the guy that owns the Suns trying to play general manager is making a mess of things, is the rich person who's in charge of everything and wants to run his team and is doing so poorly as an amateur rich guy with toys and doesn't know that you don't, try to make a trade for Jimmy Butler and then just ruin everything by informing your superstar who came to be with you through means that aren't direct that he's going to be traded. Like, that's a poison. You can't have that, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if Kevin Durant left after this season because of it. But he's saying about an ESPN report that the Suns locker room has been toxic the following, quote, "I heard that Ramona Shelburne came out and says our locker room is toxic. I try to tell people who aren't around this game much that it's easy to say our locker room is not connected when you come in there 45 minutes before and guys are in their game mode and not talking to each other. 4 or 5 guys might be in the training room. A few guys might be in the weight room. It's not a welcoming environment right before the game. That's part of getting ready to play. I think it's unfair and lazy to categorize our team as toxic when you come in there for 5 minutes throughout 4 months. That's the only time you've been in our locker room, and then you can make a narrative. I don't think that's fair to us, but like I said, that's part of the game, part of the business we signed up for. Shit is not fair in this game, but we got to deal with it and accept it." What are your thoughts there?
Who was that? Was that Ishbia or Durant?
That's Durant.
Okay.
Yeah, that's weird. I mean, Kevin Durant, first off, I'm certain that's done by reporting. I'm certain the sources are good, that it's toxic in that locker room, and Kevin Durant's in charge of that. So for him to take it personally, he should, because he's one of the leaders of that team. Make sure the environment's not toxic. I believe the reports. I do.
But he's denying the reports.
I don't care what he's denying. I mean, I believe the reports. I believe the sources. It's coming from a good place. And Kevin Durant this has followed him to many of the places that he's gone. And so I'm not surprised by the reports.
I don't think a lot of people have said that he works in toxic locker rooms. I don't think that that's followed Kevin Durant. I
think that was the case in Brooklyn. I think he teams up with guys who are considered toxic, like Kyrie Irving, and then you have a toxic environment. Why would this be surprising to anyone? And why would it be surprising to a single person that Kevin Durant is questioning the sources and the story itself, saying, no, you've been there for 5 minutes? No, this is not about how long you've been in the locker room. This is about sources within that organization telling a credible reporter, hey, it's toxic in here.
I also saw Ramona speak on this, and to me it sounded like, the report is a report, but on TV, it also sounded like a fair amount of forecasting. Like, this is going to be a bad situation. It might not be a good situation now. It's only going to get worse. And I think Kevin might be seizing on a more literal definition of what's happening in the past or the present.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that because Kevin Durant was blindsided by this idea that he might be suddenly traded, he is a part of whatever toxicity there might be, right? Based on his attitude and feeling blindsided and feeling not appreciated, or whatever one feels when you don't expect to be traded and all of a sudden you're in the middle of all these rumors, Miami rumors and such. I mean, that he's got to be pretty sour right now.
I find usually very interesting how different the player perspective can be from everybody else's perspective. So he's arriving at this conclusion that you don't know what you're talking about because you're not in here.
Right.
But Ramona is not someone, she may not have been there very much for 4 months, but she's talking to the people who are there. Like,
correct.
She's
Yes.
doing the kind of reporting. This is not just some gasbag saying something on television or on the radio that hasn't done the reporting on that. She's not going to make stuff up for clicks. She's never done that. And Stugotz is right that the credibility there is in place in a way that I think we should treasure at this time as things become more and more murky. What's true and what's not true. I saw that Hank Azaria, AI, is now trying to create his voices so that all 21 of the Simpsons characters he can not be paid for them because I have no idea what's coming for our future in terms of what's real and what's not real. But for the moment,
well, just trust the leadership in place during this really highly volatile time. I've actually wrapped my head around it so much because I fear AI. It grows more powerful every day.
You should fear it.
And we have this leadership in place. There's so much tech influence. I'm really scared about it. But you know how when you botch a Google search and it says, "Did you mean?" And you could be in this endless loop. What if the leadership that we have right now is so confusing, keeps AI on its heels the entire time, that it's just left in a perpetual, "Did you mean?" Wait, I can't actually reason with this. Maybe this is the perfect leadership to have during these times.
Elon Musk, it feels like, is running our country, and furthermore, he's investing in all future AI technology because the amount of power that he wishes to have over a future that is uncertain and scary is a bit terrifying, especially since he's a descendant of apartheid, and you've seen some of his behavior and how shameless he is about grabbing at power, money, and attention.
He did try to buy OpenAI for like $97.4 billion, and the counter was, we'll just buy X for $9 billion. No thanks.
Yeah. So I wanted to explore, though, the parts of this that happened with the Miami Heat as it relates to Kevin Durant. First of all, you should know that was not close. It was never close. There was nothing close there. A conversation.
So not a whiff? It wasn't a whiff by Riley?
It was not a whiff. It wasn't close. Well, it's a whiff if you think. This is where it is a whiff, okay? The reason it wasn't close is because of the Heat, not because of the Suns, and because the ask was, according to the people I've talked to, our entire team. It wasn't one of these young players. It wasn't Jaquez and Ware. It was they wanted our whole team. And Ishbia isn't going to trade Durant he's not going to trade Durant for pennies on the dime. He's not going to blindside Durant unless he was just sort of sniffing around on what's the most I can get for Durant. I know the Miami Heat are interested in this.
I mean, the Suns have a better record than the Heat. Maybe they should have done it.
Do you think so?
Trade the whole team.
For
like
Kevin
just trade
Durant?
the entire team. Imagine if they just trade jerseys.
For a 36-year-old Kevin Durant.
It seems like Riley's going to have
been
an
fun. He would have landed a whale. We've
Seems
been
like a
hearing
big
about all
ass.
these years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, what do the Suns do then? They have way too many players. You
Right.
know?
It seems like the opportunity to whiff on Kevin Durant will present itself once again. And I know we're on the Heat aspect of it right now, but one thing that I can say with certainty is toxicity is subjective. I guess Kevin Durant famously just cares about ball, keeps his head down. Whatever the locker room situation is in Phoenix, he prefers that well over going back to Golden State. Like, whatever you may think of that Phoenix locker room, he thinks going back into that Golden State locker room, which would be a cool story on the outside if you have no inside information. Go back to Golden State. Come back to a hero's welcome. Hell, you may actually be able to compete for a title with Steph again. He does not want to go back to Draymond Green in that situation.
I'll get back to the Durant part of this in a second, but last night the Warriors won against Milwaukee in Milwaukee, and I don't remember this. I'm trying to do it off the top of my head. Steph's been very good the last 4 games, especially the last 2 with Jimmy Butler. Has he ever played with somebody who can get 15 free throws a game? Because the way Jimmy's playing there, it doesn't even matter that he's 4 for 12. He's just going at the rim, and I'm wondering, have they had a player in Steph Curry's entire tenure that'll cave in the defense at the rim so that he's getting 15 foul shots a game?
I mean, it wasn't their game when they were winning championships, right? So you're looking at Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. I don't remember those guys getting to the line 15 times.
But has there been anybody? Has there been anybody has Steph Curry ever played with a player? Like, I know they went, at the beginning of all of that, they were throwing Bogut's and bigs and just bigs at the rim, and I just don't remember whether Steph has had that ingredient before or not. But Billy, do you, like, if I say to you, I don't even know, like, I don't have the contract matchup, and I didn't ask about particular players, and they wouldn't tell me about particular players anyway. But when they say the whole team, if I say it's some combination, if it's Ware, Jaquez, and Bam, and like if that fits up and Jovic
and Jimmy
and Jovic and Jimmy, like if I make it all of those players, you want a 36-year-old Kevin Durant to just play with Tyler Hero and not guard anybody?
I mean, I think we're just married to guys that are a play-in team every year, and then they go on a run and make the finals. But like this core isn't good enough, right? Like, can we all? Jeremy won't agree, but can we all agree they're not good enough? They've made it to the finals twice, but like
with Jimmy,
this isn't a team that is like competing with the Celtics in the East. This is like a 7, 8, 9 middling team that then goes on a run at the right time. At a certain point, you have to like accept, and I mean, I do this as someone who's a fan of the Marlins, who are never really good enough. You have to accept that like the people you've fallen in love with just may not be good enough to get done what you want to get done, and you need to move on. Now, trading all of them for Kevin Durant isn't the solution, but Kevin Durant in a Heat uniform is pretty cool.
I feel like if you kept just Bam, I would have been okay with it. Like, I'd give up Tyler, give up Ware.
Really?
Just so we're clear, you're just trotting out Kevin Durant and Bam every game.
You just lose so much defense. If you lose Bam from this team and you're left with Durant and Tyler Hero, I mean, the defense,
but like,
woof.
they're 25 and 26. What are you giving up? You know what I mean? Like, you're making it seem like you're breaking up a powerhouse. That's not the reality. You just like all these players because you're familiar with them and they've been around a long time.
Bam was a starting player on Team USA.
Okay, great.
Billy is 100%
right. I just said I'd give up everybody. I mean,
Team USA is not
for
what
you
it
guys
used
not
to
to
be.
acknowledge that Bam is a good piece.
I'm not saying he's not a good piece. They're just like, these pieces have proven that they're really not good enough.
He's a good piece that we've been saying for a decade. Can he piece it all together? He is never going to be the total package.
Right.
He's never going to be the more aggressive Bam. He is never going to be the guy. He is well past that tipping point. He is a finished product. If you want to hold on to that, cool. He's a nice player, good player, nice player, fine player. Retire his jersey in the rafters. But we know what he is. The day of projecting Bam Adebayo, that shit ended 3 years ago.
But you do that for Luka, 25. Like, I wouldn't give up that, even though I'm not disagreeing that he is limited, but I'm not giving him up for a 36-year-old.
Chris, he was their lead player last night, and they scored 85 points, the worst of the season. Understood that it's discombobulated out there. He cannot be your best player. He cannot be your most important player, and he cannot be weakened as you make Tyler Hero your best player because of the usage rate.
It's an interesting time to own a business in America, and here's the question we have, folks. What does the future hold for business? If you ask 9 experts, you're going to get 10 different answers. A bull market, a bear market, inflation up, inflation down. Can someone just please invent a crystal ball? Until that day comes, over 41,000 businesses have already future-proofed themselves with NetSuite by Oracle, the #1 cloud ERP. NetSuite seamlessly integrates accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR into one powerful platform. With one unified business management suite, you get one source of truth, empowering you to make quick, informed decisions. And thanks to real-time insights and forecasting, you're not just guessing, you're acting on actionable data. Close your books in days, not weeks, and spend more time looking ahead. Whether your company earns millions or even hundreds of millions, NetSuite helps you meet today's challenges and seize tomorrow's opportunities. Speaking of opportunity, download the CFO's Guide to AI and Machine Learning at netsuite.com/DLB. The guide is free to you at netsuite.com/DLB. netsuite.com/DLB.
Don Le Batard.
Billy, somebody has written in here, I need way more.
I'm sorry.
I just said in his headset, haven't you been to all of them too?
It sounded like you were speaking aloud. My bad. Totally on me. That's 100% on me.
All right.
Yeah.
Stugotz.
Well, that goes without saying.
Right.
That it couldn't happen.
Well, now he said
Well, he didn't say it. He said it again.
Yeah, that
Greg,
was just
why?
in my head
Greg,
again.
Greg,
My
Greg,
apologies
Greg,
sincere.
Greg, why? Greg.
Yeah.
Greg.
He apologized. I mean,
Greg.
Sincerely.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
This is clearly not good enough. It leads me actually to another conversation about the Swifties today. Do they understand what just happened? Like, given that they've just been winning, like Taylor Swift is getting brooding boyfriend for the first time in 3 years. Like, he's going to go home and he's going to need some nursing here over the next 14 days of hiding because of how much this hurts. And when you talk to Travis Kelce today, because the not good enough, the acknowledgement to know that you're not good enough, it's so easy to say from over here. And I think Billy's right, too. And Mike's been saying this for 2 years about the Miami Heat. And Mike ends up being more right than Heat management about Terry Rozier and keeping everything together because they were this close. But the self-awareness of not good enough. Does Travis Kelce know today? If you sit in front of Travis Kelce and say, you guys aren't as good as the Eagles, does he acknowledge that, or does he say, no, we just had a bad game? Like, does he acknowledge, yeah, that team is just a lot better than us, and that's it. If we play them a bunch of times, we're going to lose every time. Or does the mind of an athlete and the perspective of an athlete that's different than ours get it wrong because the confidence has to be there to think that you're better than others?
I think he acknowledges that his team is not as good as the Eagles team. It was pretty obvious. It was on full display on Sunday. I tried to tell him 3 years ago. No one listened to me, but I was right. And I was early. I was early to the party. So I think he would acknowledge that, but he has number 15 at quarterback, and he would say, I think, if we just add a few more pieces, perhaps we can get back to where we were.
I don't think he acknowledges that.
Really?
I don't think.
You think he thinks this run is done with Patrick Mahomes?
No, I don't think that he thinks the Eagles are just flatly better than they are. That the Eagles.
Well, then he's lying.
I don't think that he thinks that the Eagles can do that to him in every game they play against him.
The thing about the Chiefs in particular, though, is like they've beat teams that are just flat out better than them in the Super Bowl, and they've always been able to just make it work when they needed to make it work in the Super Bowl. This year, they couldn't. So I think that they may not think that they're not less talented than other teams, but like this Eagles team isn't the first team that was just flat out better than them. This is just the first team that beat them.
Yeah, but you're saying flat out better than them because that's what the scoreboard says, and it's what we all saw. I'm telling you that the perspective of the huddle is very often to never acknowledge that.
Right. I agree with you. I think the Chiefs think right now that if the teams played again a week from Sunday, Kansas City would win. I think every key player on that team, including Travis Kelce, thinks that. I think they're wrong. I think the Philadelphia Eagles lesson for the rest of the NFL is that you have to build from you don't have to, but you build from the inside out. Philadelphia dominated because their offensive line is the best in the league and showed it, and their defensive line was able to sack Mahomes 6 times without blitzing, which left the pass coverage deep.
More than he's ever been sacked in a game because he's elusive. Mike Ryan came in here today. This was funny to me, Stugotz, the way this turned, okay?
Mm-hmm.
This was really funny because Mike Ryan came in here today and he's like, you know how you beat that? You just run draw plays.
Yep.
Yep. How do you beat pressure with 4 when they have 7 guys back there in the secondary? Yeah, you run the damn ball.
Yeah,
that's how you beat it. It's not something. It's like you want to play a numbers game. Okay, they got 7 back there. That means we have a numbers advantage up front. Let's run the ball.
Yeah. In Mike's defense, he did rewatch the Super Bowl.
He did. Crunch of tape. The draw was
he
there.
Put the time in.
Dan, the draw was there all game long.
They didn't
shock draw.
Yes, they didn't run the ball. That's true. And this is simple math, right? If you're getting pressure with 4, and Kansas City's adjustment was to not try and block their 4 with 5, but with 6. Like, if they're still getting the pressure with 4 when they're using the running back to chip and they're using 6 guys, you've got a problem in your secondary when your receivers aren't good enough. But the thing that's interesting about what Mike's doing, I think, is just the very idea that you can watch that for one half and be like, yeah, I know more than Spags and Andy Reid. I do. Like, they haven't thought about the draw play. They have not considered it. They're confused.
That is not Spags' job.
No, Andy Reid right now is calling Spags and texting me. He's like, why did we forget about the draw play? Pacheco was doing that so well on Tuesday.
Excuse me. Only one in this show was trying to take credit away from coaches yesterday, and that was you with Fangs.
It wasn't with Fangs. It was with all of the Eagles, because if you think the Eagles suddenly got smarter than Andy Reid and Spags, you guys just want to credit coaching for stuff. Like, Andy Reid and Spags were supposed to be the standard going into that game, not Fangs. If I asked you before that game, who's got the coaching advantage, what's your answer?
Everyone would say the Chiefs.
Yep.
It doesn't mean we're right.
Well, but I don't think that them losing is because that had anything to do with coaching. Like, I saw so much yesterday. Patrick Mahomes choked. And Andy Reid and Spags, well, not so much Spags, but Andy Reid was undressed, exposed. And I'm like, that's not what happened.
Well, it is.
They did abandon the run early. They had that drive after it was 17-0 where everyone kind of knew, okay, including the Eagles, by the way, at that point, we're going to try to reestablish the run. And they get like 4 yards on their first 2 plays. And they're like, well, I guess that's that. And to me, that's not how you do that. That's not how you stay committed to the run. Those weren't creative run plays. Everybody in the building knew that they were going to run there. I think you stick with the run beyond that. You go 4-down territory. You run on 3rd down. You run to something other than an HB dive.
It's easy and fair to say in retrospect that Kansas City should have run the ball more. One of the Chiefs' problems this year is that they didn't run the ball very well. Pacheco and Kareem Hunt both averaged 3.4 yards a carry, well below average. This is not a great running team.
I love football so much. Nick Sirianni was the guy who couldn't win the big game. He was crazy. He was a lunatic, and now he's a leader of men, and Andy Reid doesn't know what he's doing.
It's stupid.
What would Andy Reid's honest reaction be to Mike's note? Hey, should have ran the ball more. Like, what would he say?
Yes, he's right.
He'd probably be like, no shit.
Yes, he would be right. They ran the ball 7 times when it wasn't Mahomes running the ball. But I just want you to, I want you all to absorb, I want you all to just let this soak in, okay? What you saw on Sunday was so shocking that Mike Ryan is boldly coming in here with the argument, you know what needs to happen? I need to take the ball out of Mahomes' hands and give it to Pacheco.
Yep.
Pacheco
and Hunt.
And yes, I need to take it out of the hands of like that offense was so limited all season, and we forgot just because Hollywood Brown comes back and they scored 30 for the first time all season against Buffalo. That offense was bad this year. And Mahomes was the one always bailing him out. It wasn't Pacheco. It wasn't Kareem Hunt. It wasn't running the ball unless it was Mahomes running the ball on 3rd and 5 for 7 yards.
I tried to tell you.
Man, I saw them win a Super Bowl in which you could have made a sound argument that Damian Williams was the MVP of that game. And last year they had a lot more balance. Look, Pacheco's hurt. Kareem Hunt is older. Maybe they have to address that position. There are reasons why it wasn't as effective. Pacheco never looked the same. He is a punishing runner. But last year, Pacheco getting the ball more and taking the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands, that wasn't a bad play. That was a very effective play. They could have used Pacheco from last year.
Another problem with they should have run the ball more is that this game got out of hand very quickly. And if you're running the ball down 34-0, people look at you like you're crazy, and you are. You know, the head coach needs a breathalyzer test if he's running the ball down 34-0 when your quarterback's Patrick Mahomes.
The thing that is always funny to me about this is, and I remember this all the time, when Dallas and Jimmy Johnson were winning their championships and they would hit any kind of hiccup of any kind on offense, the suggestion to Jimmy Johnson would be some form of, why don't you guys run more screen passes for Emmitt Smith? And you know what his answer was? We're not good at that. The Chiefs are like 22nd or 23rd in the league in running the ball, and it's not like Mahomes was throwing for 300 yards every game either. Their offense was limited against bad defenses. Their offense was limited.
It's a huge disconnect between people that try to talk about this, and I understand fully the resentment of coaches that hear us say things like run a draw and think that we're idiots. But honestly, we have no idea what those coaches are actually trying to achieve. We don't actually know. We can assume, pressure with 4, collapsing the pocket, that'll wreck it. But we don't actually know what they're doing in the secondary, how they're disguising coverages. We don't know if they're actually executing a game plan. We just have the results to work off of.
Dan, I wasn't giving praise to any coach yesterday. In fact, the guy who deserves praise is Howie Roseman. He put together a roster that is good enough and took a lot of chances. Jalen Carter was a guy who had some stuff coming out of college. He fell to the Eagles, I think, at number 6 or 7, and he was willing to take that guy. He put together a team that was capable of not just beating the Chiefs, but blowing out
beating them up.
Beating them up. The offensive line, the defensive line, the quarterback in the second round, getting A.J. Brown, drafting Devontae Smith. He has put together a tremendous roster.
One of the quiet things that happened on Sunday, and I'm not used to it, right? Because every time you win a championship, whether you're Tom Brady or anyone else, you better have some defensive help that's not going to get acknowledged as we give all of the credit to the quarterback. Man, that was an awfully quiet Chris Jones Super Bowl, and it wasn't just an awfully quiet Chris Jones Super Bowl. On the goal line, he's curled up in the fetal position trying to keep the tush push out of the end zone, and what happens? He hurts his neck. He's just laying on the floor trying to get lower than their offensive linemen, and he's getting pushed by that force so much that they have to tend to his injured neck. And my guess is that if I ask anybody in our audience, maybe some would go with McDuffie, hey, the championship run, who's the most important defensive player? Who's the guy that's always going to make the play on 3rd and 4th down when you need something in the backfield? Tell me all the things he did on Sunday that made you notice him when you guys know what kind of a champion menace that person is. They were losing games when he was holding out. Like they were just losing games when he held out.
He was dealing with like a neck thing on the sideline that they were working on throughout that
After
game.
That play.
Yeah.
It was after that play that they started dealing with that.
No doubt. To the Roseman point, great offseason, potentially one of the greatest ever.
Amazing.
Hired Fangio. We know Fangio wanted to go back to that area, but hired Kellen Moore, who had to rebuild his reputation, now may be a head coach in the league, and possibly New Orleans. Signed Saquon Barkley, signed Zach Bond, who was amazing for them. C.J. Gardner-Johnson was also signed. Mekhi Becton was huge for them. Traded for John Dodson, drafted Quentin Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. And honestly, we should look back at this Carson Wentz trade and supplant the Herschel Walker trade. This is the greatest trade in NFL history because in the Carson Wentz trade, they got Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Jalen Carter, Cooper DeJean. These are all picks that turned into these players. And don't forget, they ended up flipping Carson Wentz for a bunch of picks, and those guys became guys.
He also didn't cut A.J. Brown in the middle of the playoff run for reading a book on the sideline.
Like Samson said he should.
Yeah.
By the way, anybody could have had Becton, including the Dolphins.
The Jets had him.
And they gave him, and they didn't go for him. The Philadelphia Eagles, 3 of their top 5 players are offensive linemen. I don't know whether that's unheard of, but it's certainly rare, and it showed. And I can't overemphasize that, in my opinion, the Eagles are great because their offensive and defensive lines are great. Nobody talks about the 2 lines much enough, but that's fundamentally why they're champions.
It may have been nobody talking much about it beforehand. That ceases today, though, because even though the quarterback, even though a lot of people are talking about Jalen Hurts and trying to elevate him a tier the way that Stugotz is, I think most people acknowledge how it is and where it is that game was won in a way that was obvious. The thing that I was trying to tell you guys yesterday about throughout the history of football, when the line advantages are that obvious to the eye, because Mike's sitting here saying, well, we don't know what the scheming is.
Right.
We don't actually know. We don't know enough while we're watching to know what the adjustments were in the second half in the secondary. But what we do know, and what all of us saw, overt to even the biggest of amateurs, is offensive and defensive line play, that if I put the advantages on any team that has played a game throughout football, that team will never lose a game. Like, if it's that obvious that you don't lose at football, because the whole thing is, can you get 10 yards in 3 plays? And you're going to get it every time, and you're going to prevent it every time if you have those pressures. The idea that the Chiefs went for 23 yards in the first half
Crazy.
Like that's it. When Mike Ryan says, "Why did Patrick Mahomes look like he didn't want to be out there?" Who the bleep would want to be out there for that? The world is watching, and I can't do anything. And I'm trying to throw a 3-yard pass to Travis Kelce, and I'm so scared. I'm throwing it at his ankles because I don't have time, and I need him to get down and cradle one of these balls because I don't feel like I can do anything down the field. That I don't have any time to do anything down the field.
I'm sure you could look at Super Bowls in which you could find a distinct advantage along the lines, and that team doesn't end up winning. But what it never happens is the team with the advantages along the trenches gets blown out. Never.
I will tell you that one of the few times I have ever seen a team that had those kind of advantages lose is when the Miami Hurricanes lost to Penn State in a Fiesta Bowl, and it's because Jimmy Johnson wouldn't stop throwing the ball. But on that game, it wasn't Mahomes throwing 2 interceptions. It was Testaverde throwing 5 of them.
Right.
Like, it took a ton of interceptions to make that even a close game, which it was right up until the very end.
Are you blaming Jimmy for that game? I mean, it sounds like you are.
He just may be retired, man.
I mean, Jimmy can blame himself. I don't think you should be blaming Jimmy.
I blame Jimmy. Jimmy would blame Jimmy. It's Jimmy's fault. It's the most haunting loss of Jimmy's career because he's like, nobody ever loses that game.
And it should be because Miami's defense was so great that despite all of those Testaverde turnovers, Penn State scores 14 points. Despite all that, that's how great Miami's defense was.
I want to.
Right.
Thank you, Billy. Appreciate it.
The Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is sponsored by BetterHelp. We talk a lot about red flags, the warning signs that tell us to stay away from toxic relationships. But what if we spent more time looking for green flags? You know, the signs that a relationship is healthy, supportive, and worth investing in. So what are some green flags to look out for? Good communication, emotional safety, mutual respect, and someone who genuinely listens to you. Whether it's a romantic partner, a friend, or even a coworker, recognizing these positive traits can help you build relationships that will truly love you back. And if you're not sure how to spot them or even how to practice them yourself, therapy can help. Therapy can teach you positive coping skills, how to set boundaries, and how to show up as the best version of yourself. BetterHelp is accessible, affordable, and convenient. With over 30,000 licensed therapists and a fully online platform, you can find the right match for you. Plus, you can switch therapists anytime at no extra cost. So why not invest in the relationship that matters most, starting with yourself? Discover your relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/DLB today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/DLB. Valentine's Day is coming up, and for me, there's only one place I trust, 1-800-Flowers.com. Every year, I order stunning, high-quality bouquets from 1-800-Flowers that my grandma absolutely loves.
Jessica, holy I got the most gorgeous roses. I don't think I ever got that many roses in my whole life. Certainly not from your lovely grandfather. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you. You made my day. I mean, they are gorgeous. Never had so many roses in my whole life. 85 years. Holy
And this year, we're partnering with 1-800-Flowers to make sure you're a Valentine's hero with an exclusive offer for Le Batard listeners. Double the roses for free. When you buy 1 dozen, they'll double your bouquet to 2 dozen roses. It's the perfect way to say I love you without breaking the bank. All roses from 1-800-Flowers are picked at their peak, cared for every step of the way, and shipped fresh to ensure lasting beauty. To claim your double your roses offer, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/Dan. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/Dan.
Dan Le Batard.
He called me on my own podcast. He called me full of shit, claiming that I'm faking interest in the solar eclipse.
Well, you do this. You love to just get excited about everything.
Okay, Junior.
Stugotz.
I had to school you and explain to you.
He was going to take you to Augusta.
When I was 17 years old, Alan Sherry and I used to haunt the Bueller Planetarium.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
I wanted to get back to the Kevin Durant Heat thing because Jeremy had 1,000 things that he wanted to say, and he continues to get boxed out. Did we get that sound of when Terry Rozier was traded to the Miami Heat? And
Worst day of my life.
It broke Mike Ryan, and he's rivaling Antoine Walker and Eddie Jones as one of the most unpopular players right now in Heat history. And I am told that a sideline discussion broke out yesterday among media media members about whether or not Terry Rozier is the worst player in Heat history to ever wear that uniform and get those kind of minutes. That game in the modern age of offense last night is an abomination. It's hard to watch them be that far behind the Boston Celtics, even if you understand that Tyler Hero's not playing. But the 85 points. The 85 points make it an unwatchable basketball game, but Jeremy will always have the 22-13 start they got with the hope of Andrew Wiggins.
That's exactly right, Dan. That's exactly right. It was unbelievable off the bat, where you got Alec Burns in there instead of Tyler Hero, and they're up 22-13 at a timeout. It was amazing. What a thrill.
Jeremy's tweet from before the game, obsessed with this starting
And
lineup.
I was right to be. They got off to a 22-13 start, despite shooting only 30-something% from the field.
I may have missed something because the Super Bowl was last week, but like, isn't Terry Rozier actively being investigated for throwing games? How is he still playing?
Great points.
Yes, it is a great point. We didn't even
what's going on with the investigation?
How are we just allowing someone who maybe was fixing games to continue to suit up and play every night?
The allegation is just one game.
He hasn't been charged with anything. I think that's fair to say. He's being investigated along with others, but he has not been charged with any wrongdoing. I want to point out that the Heat's 3 new players last night were 5 for 25. They were all pretty bad. They're going to be better. They had like one practice with the team. I would not judge that trade or this team.
Well, you say
based on
they had one practice with the team. Jimmy Butler played his first game, knew 3 plays, hadn't done anything with done anything with the Golden State Warriors, and without not a meeting, not anything, just showed up and.
That's fair. No, that's fair.
One of the things that people are very excited about is that Mitchell and Wiggins with the Heat are 2 of the top 8 perimeter defenders in the league. The problem is the 85 points when Tyler Hero is not playing. And one of the things, can you get me the stat of the day music here, Chris? Because this is, I believe, something that doesn't have a precedent in NBA history, and I defy someone to come up with a statistical precedent to what it is I'm about to say.
Start of the day, it is the start of the day. Start of the day, it is the start of the day. Start of the day, it is the start of the day. Start of the day, it is the start of the
During his entire Heat tenure, Jimmy Butler, during the regular season, had 0 40-point games. In the postseason, he had 8 of them. That can't exist anywhere in the history of basketball.
Playoff Jimmy.
Just there must not be such a thing as that. And it's been interesting to watch him and Golden State go for 4 for 12 last night, but go and get all of the free throws. There just aren't a ton of people playing like that. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander doesn't object to the criticism that he's a free throw merchant. He's like, I get a bunch of free throws because I'm hard to guard, but that thing
didn't get him so much the last few games with the Heat. That's awkward. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder what was going on.
I think you do know what happened there. Things are so bad between Jimmy and his agent and the Heat. The Heat have no time for his agent, like, at all. That guy was talking to like a lot of media members, doing his job, doing what the agent is supposed to do. But the thing is so bad that they can't even agree on who called whom unhinged first. Because Jimmy Butler is claiming that Pat Riley was unhinged in the meeting, but the Heat think that he got the word unhinged from them saying that he was unhinged about things.
This is all very ugly, and the Athletic piece, which you could deduce because of the slant that the story took, came from Jimmy's camp. And it does paint the Miami Heat in a very negative light. From meeting with Pat Riley, trying to awkwardly bond over their fathers, to Mickey putting off a meeting. No, this is a priority, but I actually can't make this meeting. Like, it's all bad. But I would say some of this stuff seems, to me, pretty disingenuous and pretty... It's bad ball. Because he's invoking, if you see the back of his jersey, he's really like seizing on this relationship that he had with his father, a relationship that really bloomed more through sickness and adversity. And the Miami Heat were very supportive. I happen to know this for a fact. We're very supportive.
This is a happen to know report?
They know. I know this for a fact. Everybody in that organization was supremely supportive of Jimmy when his father was going through this. And to turn the temperature up and use that as if the Miami Heat were somehow awkward around that situation is to me a little bit of bad ball.
Is crying one of the characteristics of becoming unhinged? Because I don't view it like that. I view it like you start throwing papers, you start doing stuff like that. That's just getting emotional, you know?
Well, I want to talk to you guys about this because I started doing this yesterday and...
Crying?
The thing that's happened over the last 5 years with me, and we were talking yesterday with Chris about his dad crying later in life over things. The idea of using crying to be male weakness, that is so weak, honestly. Like the idea that what is male is to repress the feelings, push them down, and secretly not show anyone that you're hurt about the death of your father. Like that you would want, that you keep that buried inside, you'd private, and if you need to blubber on the toilet with the door locked, fine, but don't show that to anybody. It's so uniquely male and so uniquely repressed and stupid that it's totally unsurprising to see it used to slap Pat Riley across the face when Pat Riley is somebody that I have known to cry when he talks about his father since I've known him.
Right. I love a good cry. I'm not certain how Greg feels about it, but I do. You feel better after you cry. I mean, I don't view it like, hey, I'm not as manly as the next guy. I'm just crying, and it feels good.
I have been embarrassed by crying a number of different times, and I will tell you that I'm doing a substantive amount of work through acupuncture and a whole lot of medicines that I don't totally understand, holistic medicines, to try and lubricate whatever it is that this thing is here that makes you shut down around where your emotions are in order to let them go. The idea, I began to say this yesterday with Jimmy Johnson and where it is that he decided to quit on coaching, because he had been an unfeeling, cutthroat, mercenary creature who was disgusted with himself at his mother's funeral because he did a lifetime of regret on, I haven't been the father, I haven't been the husband, I haven't been the son that I wanted to be, and breaks down sobbing for the first time, letting all of that go to use what Mike is saying there, what is particularly dirty. The Heat obviously did not like that athletic story. The ESPN did a more even-handed one than that. Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald did one that was more pro-Heat than that. Everyone's got their truth here. Jimmy Butler says, I haven't even told my part of the story, and when I do, it'll be with Shaq. Why will it be with Shaq? Because Shaq was outside the facility and wouldn't be allowed in to get his stuff back when he wanted to punch Pat Riley. That's why Jimmy Butler is doing. We'll do it with Shaq if he ever tells his part of the story. But I don't actually know what the truth is here. Everyone's got their own truths, and everyone is self-interested and biased about what those truths are.
It's an interesting time to own a business in America, and here's the question we have, folks. What does the future hold for business? If you ask 9 experts, you're going to get 10 different answers. A bull market, a bear market, inflation up, inflation down. Can someone just please invent a crystal ball? Until that day comes, over 41,000 businesses have already future-proofed themselves with NetSuite by Oracle, the #1 cloud ERP. NetSuite seamlessly integrates accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR into one powerful platform. With one unified business management suite, you get one source of truth, empowering you to make quick, informed decisions. And thanks to real-time insights and forecasting, you're not just guessing, you're acting on actionable data. Close your books in days, not weeks, and spend more time looking ahead. Whether your company earns millions or even hundreds of millions, NetSuite helps you meet today's challenges and seize tomorrow's opportunities. Speaking of opportunity, download the CFO's Guide to AI and Machine Learning at netsuite.com/DLB. The guide is free to you at netsuite.com/DLB. netsuite.com/DLB.
Valentine's Day is coming up, and for me, there's only one place I trust, 1-800-Flowers.com. Every year, I order stunning, high-quality bouquets from 1-800-Flowers that my grandma absolutely loves.
Jessica, holy I got the most gorgeous roses. I don't think I ever got that many roses in my whole life. Certainly not from your lovely grandfather. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you. You made my day. I mean, they are gorgeous. Never had so many roses in my whole life. 85 years. Holy
And this year, we're partnering with 1-800-Flowers to make sure you're a Valentine's hero with an exclusive offer for Le Batard listeners. Double the roses for free. When you buy 1 dozen, they'll double your bouquet to 2 dozen roses. It's the perfect way to say I love you without breaking the bank. All roses from 1-800-Flowers are picked at their peak, cared for every step of the way, and shipped fresh to ensure lasting beauty. To claim your Double Your Roses offer, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/Dan. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/Dan.